I lost my dad, my mom, and my baby sister.
Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffer and you are watching the Mojo story. You saw it from that opening video. There is this man who is distributing pamphlets outside of a Gurdwara. He is distributing it on behalf of a Liberal MP, Sukh Dhaliwal. And what they are trying to say is that please reopen the Kanishka bombing case. They say that there is an Indian hand. There was an Indian hand behind the case. There can be nothing more absurd than this. At a time when India-Canada relations have hit the rock bottom, what all is happening? We're seeing every day new developments taking place and the rise of Khalistani terror in Canada. We're joined by a special panel. We're joined by Kushal Mehra, who joins us from Canada today. He is a podcaster. Welcome to the show. And Sanjay Lazar is an aviation expert, but also a person who lost his family members in that tragic bombing of the Kanishka flight in 1985. Welcome to show, Sanjay ji. When you see such a video of these people distributing pamphlets and saying, open the investigation again, and trying to say that it was an Indian hand behind that blast, that bombing, what do you say? Do you feel angry? Do you feel sad? Do you feel that nothing has been done so far and it's just not acceptable?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. And yes, this is one of the sickening things that as a family member who lost my entire family in the Kanishka bombing 39 years ago, me and so many other family members feel disgust. This is the same country, Canada, that, first of all, they dragged their feet for 20 years to have an investigation, to complete it, to go to trial. During that trial, evidence was destroyed, tape recordings were destroyed, witnesses died, disappeared, ran away, whatever. And justice was never done for us. And the people who were responsible for the bombing, got acquitted, they escaped. And thereafter, we had the John Major inquiry. Justice John Major gave, after long hearing, which I appeared again before that, and pointed the finger directly at the Khalistanis and the Babbar Khalsa and Parmar and company. But look at this now.
Right.
40 years down the line, people are trying to rewrite history. And, it's ridiculous that somebody wants to reopen a case that was an open and shut case. If that is the case, let's have the the destroyed evidence also entered into account. The recordings were destroyed, but the transcripts are there. Let's try everybody again, because this is a sick joke. And the sad part is the current Canadian government is permitting all this. You had CIA, you had 9/11 conspiracists who say the CIA did it, or all this nonsense goes around all over the world. Let's be clear. Okay. But here, it's the first time I've ever seen a government permitting this kind of nonsense. And there are MPs who are in parliament who are, taking signature campaigns, who are passing these things. Disgusting. This is the same nation that some years ago said, we will observe June 23rd as a day of, against terrorism and a day of remembrance. These are I've seen most of their politicians attending memorials and things. And these are the same MPs who then have a minute's silence for a terrorist in their parliament. And then they do this. My stomach churns, really, it just does.
Absolutely. You lost your family in that bombing. And obviously blood boils when you see such things happening, that they're trying to rewrite history. Kushalji, you are there. They try to rewrite history. They're trying to now say that there was an Indian hand behind those behind that bombing. Is how is this happening? Why is it permitted?
Well, first of all, I want to say sorry to Sanjay Bhai. I mean, I just feel terrible. It's just I can't even imagine what he goes through when he has to read things like this. But then when you are talking about these things, this is the only question I get asked these days. How can something like this happen? And honestly, even I don't know why this is happening. Like 20 years ago, the Canada I came to when I came as a student to York University in 2001 to study, this is not the same Canada anymore. This country has been hijacked by vested interests, by special interest groups, and this country has become a joke. And I say this with a lot of pain because I like Canada.
Yeah.
And just in 2017, the Prime Minister of Canada, who still is the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, speaking to the New York Magazine, said, "We are a post-national state. That means we don't have any identity." Listen, these
Hmm.
are all downstream effects of when you declare yourself a post-national state. When you say you don't have any identity, the natural second-order effect of that, Zafarji, is ghettoization. And when you have ghettoization, you allow all sorts of crazy things. And the Khalistani network of Canada. See, I know Indians keep saying, there is no Khalistan in India. Yes, but there is a Khalistan in Canada. And even though they are at best 100,000 people out of the 2 million plus Indian population, they are not 100,000 of 1.5 billion Indians. They are 100,000 of only 2 million people. That's a lot of
Yeah.
people in just
Right.
2 million who keep on talking. So and they have a single-minded focus. They are interns in all political outfits. There are journalists who are Khalistani. There are politicians who are Khalistani. When you have a system like this, like even in this petition, right? Try and understand how this petition has been placed. It gets placed from Surrey by a man, Mr. Singh, whose wife, Rachna Singh, was the former education minister of the government of British Columbia.
Right.
He's from the NDP. Look at the nexus. See, the famous adage of Arvind Kejriwal, "Sab mile hue hai ji."
Hmm.
Literally, this is the adage fits Canada when we say "Sab mile hue hai ji." Because and somebody might say, "Nahi, nahi, the conservatives are not going to be like this." I can assure you, it is even a conservative thing. And you know what is even more painful is the names they have given. One of the names in that is Ujjal Dosanjh, the former premier of British Columbia. This is the same Ujjal Dosanjh that was brutally attacked by Khalistanis for raising a voice against Sikh separatism. Listen, the Khalistanis are the 9/11 truthers of Canada. It's just that they are worse than them. They are dumber
Right.
than the 9/11 truthers, and they are more violent than the 9/11 truthers. And the culture of intimidation is just, you have to live here to experience it. I just live here for 6 months and I'm like, damn. But it's disgusting. And I don't even have words anymore that they're trying to do this.
Right. Sanjay ji, the point that Kushal Saab was making, that these elements have infiltrated the systems, all institutions, everywhere. It is rather impossible to plug them out now because they are deeply embedded, entrenched in the system. And one gets a sense that things are just going to get worse from here. And this anti India sentiment is just spreading by the day and nothing is being done about it. In the name of free speech, they're allowed to do anything. They can take out those rallies where they glorify the killers of a former prime minister. Where is it heading?
What Kushal says is absolutely right. I've also looked very deep at the Canadian setup and the US setup for that matter. Let me tell you, the US is not too far behind. You have both the Democrats and the Republicans who have their own share of Khalistanis who have embedded their way in their system. So it's just that Canada, they have reached, the number two levels in government, right? Whether it's the NDP or whether it's the Conservatives or even the Liberals, you will find a Khalistani at number two and number three levels. So, and they've got into places of influence. This is what how a well set up organization moves. They have, this was the same organization. You look at the World Sikh Organization. You know, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, they were calling for the death of 50,000 Hindus in New York. If you
Right.
remember the plenary session where you had Bagri and Malik and Bagri and Parmar and all attending, they were calling that, मैं 50,000 Hindu को मार, in Punjabi, of course, and those recordings were viral. They were taken to the court. They were, all this has happened. The FBI was
Yeah.
there. The CIA was involved. Everybody knew. From there
Yeah.
to getting banned, and then now they appeared before Justice John Major's committee, and today look at them. We all know the ex-Canadian defense minister was, is part of them. We know a couple of premiers. There's so many. They spread all over, and you look at the lower levels. In college libraries, in college professors, some of these sympathize. I won't say, there are, like Kushal Bhai says, 100,000 people. Maybe there's 70, 60,000, 50,000 who are fierce Khalistanis. Probably. But the influence they wield on the other 100,000, 200,000 non-Khalistanis is so great. And this is a sense of worry for all of us in India. Yes, you're right. There is the free speech creed in Canada, which says that you can say just about anything. But there has to be a line when it comes to promoting secessionism in other friendly nations. You will see that even in the US, there is a limit to which they allow. In Canada, they go far beyond that limit. And be that as it may, I think as long as this remains, it will always be a thorn in the Indo-Canadian relationship. I frankly cannot ever believe that in the next 20 years, we could go back to the decent, good relations we had when, Prime Minister Harper was in power. It's going to take much, much more, lots of confidence building, because you look at it objectively, people in India and Sikhs in India aren't even looking for Khalistan. I mean, that's a dead and buried topic here. They can keep it alive in Brampton or in BC or somewhere, maybe give a part of Vancouver and create their own Khalistan there. But it's not happening here. And as long as Canada doesn't put to bed the Kanishka bombing story, it's never going to die down. There's always going to be this rift. And unfortunately, most of the Canadian politicians are playing to the Canadian galleries. They're looking for vote banks. This is vote bank politics. You know that radical Sikhs or radical Khalistanis, let me say, I don't know what to call them. They're all a large chunk of people votes in BC, votes in Toronto, votes in Brampton, in these areas. So they want to just harness those votes. That's about it. And like he says, at the Baisakhi parade, mind you, every single party leader is present. Behind them, you will see a poster of Parmar and of Nijjar and of the killers of Indira Gandhi. So that is Canadian politics for you, and it's going to remain. We've seen this with the PLO and the Palestine in 50 years ago. It's history repeating itself. That's all.
Kushalji, that line that he was talking about, Sanjayji, that has, I think, been crossed long ago. It is not that line will be crossed now. It has been crossed long ago. But the point is that vote bank politics, that this is a vote bank, and these politicians are sort of reaching out to that vote bank and keeping that in good humor. How is it going to help that country in the long run? Because we've heard it famously, the snakes in your backyard are going to go after you in a different context. But here the snakes are not in the backyard. They are everywhere.
I don't know what Canada is thinking. I wish I could tell you Canada was thinking. I mean, Sanjay Bhai and I have had off the record chats where I have told Sanjay Bhai very candidly what I'm saying here. Inka dimag kharab ho chuka hai. I mean, see, Sanjay Bhai is smiling because Sanjay Bhai knows I'm not even changing my words. So I just call Sanjay Bhai and I tell him, "Kya ye log pagal ho gaye hain, Sanjay Bhai? Mujhe kuch samajh mein nahi aa raha." I mean, I don't know what else to say. Sir, try and understand. How can you do anything when a uniparty is Khalistani? See, people, the only solution in this now is in India's hands. It is not in the hands of the Indo-Canadian community. The Indo-Canadian community is not being lent an ear. They are not being given a ear. Lenten year, nobody is listening to them. They are going on saying that, what are you guys doing? You're destroying relations. I think it is time for India to take some really harsh steps as far as Canada is concerned. I have consistently said this, that anyone of Indian origin or not, irrespective of their religion, if they are seen, even if you get a whiff of the K word, in this case being Khalistan, if you see a whiff of them, your first reaction as an Indian state has to be to cancel their entry into India. You have to cancel their entry into India. Second step, you have to write a letter stating that these are your properties in India. We treat you like an active threat to the Indian state. Your properties are now up for sale. Third, you should write to India. See, we don't have a trade deal with India and Canada, right? So Canada actually works with a fork tongue. While the liberal says, Mera Biba Khalistani Puttar, right? The conservatives come to India and say, Nini, yaar, we are not like that. Let's trade. No, we are not going to trade with you. We will not buy lentils from Saskatchewan. We will not buy coal briquettes from different parts of Canada. We are not going to trade with Alberta. We are not going to allow our students to go to universities in Ontario. If we do these things, I'm not saying it should be forever, but this should be our leverage against Canada. Otherwise, Sanjay Bhai and many such family members will go on getting tortured in Canada and in India. The Indian state owes it to the families of the Air India victims. You should not trade with these people. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. That's the only solution.
Right. The thing is that some steps were taken in that direction. There is this Gurpatwan Singh Pannu who has been openly espousing violence against India. His properties were sort of confiscated in Punjab. Some steps were taken, but Kushalji, you think that more need to be done? It's not just their leaders, but people who by and large are supporting this, and you say that the solution is in India's hand. Of course, India has been diplomatically putting pressure on Canada, but on the other hand, you are seeing total stonewalling, and perhaps, when the prime minister stands up in the parliament and says the agents of the government of India, there can be nothing more adverse than this. What more can India do? Yes, Kushalji.
Me or
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I think India has not done anything. See, the language of diplomaties doesn't matter,
Yeah.
because diplomaties is what it is. I say in India we have become past masters and in doing Kadininda. Every time something happens, we do Kadininda and we get over it. The Canadians know that Kadininda has no value. Kadininda has no value. The moment Kadininda, we cross that Rubicon of Kadininda and we get into the world of real politics, is when the Canadians will pay attention to us. My question to the Indian state is, why are they not doing it? I am not giving the Canadians a free run, so please don't misunderstand me. I am admitting the Canadians are incompetent. Yes, they are incompetent. But my question as an Indian passport holder is, there is a state. See, you can no longer say it is not the state that is actively participating. These are members of parliament. What are members of parliament not representative of the state now? Then who else is a member representative of the Canadian state? Members are hostile to India. Why am I supposed to take it? And at a time where you had 4 Canadian members of the parliament, 1 conservative, 3 liberal, being named as active Chinese agents allegedly in a
Yes,
press
yes.
conference yesterday.
I wanted to come to that, Kushalji, but first I wanted to understand this, that India has taken steps. There are many things that there are there. Like we had put up a poll today. We'll get the results in shortly. That should Indian students stop traveling to Canada? Most of the Indian students go to Canada for higher studies. When situation is so bad, as you're saying, that it is not some people who are out there and creating a problem. These are representatives sitting in the parliament. It takes it to a different level, Sanjay ji.
believe that number one, we should, you know, literally sever economic ties. I have very strong views on this. Number two, we should, like Kushal said, reduce, you know, trans-border travel, literally between Canada and India, unless you're already an existing visa. But relook at all these people who have
Yeah,
Khalistani links. First of all,
yeah,
the second thing is, I had said this the day the Canada-India row broke out on your show, actually with Barkha, and I said that we need to make sure that we get our students out of there, because we don't want to have a situation where, we are doing flights to evacuate them later,
yeah.
or pull them out. We contribute over $1 billion to education alone, our students. There are 437,000 students as of April 2024 in Canada.
Yeah.
Why are we, bleeding our foreign currency and going there? I think we should stop them.
So you get those results. There are 26% saying that yes, and 74% saying no. So this is a clear picture on the ground that these things have an impact. You know, when people see the prime minister of the country standing up and saying all those things and reiterating not just once, and after a year with the same stand, and diplomats being expelled, and the diplomat saying that he barely was saved when there was a person who was brandishing a sword, not a small weapon. Again, this is a diplomat, top diplomat of a country who is living in such circumstances. What Indian, of course, have a right to protest, and to protest strongly, but they do expect a reasonable behavior from the other side. And there is a lot of hypocrisy also involved. Kushalji, as you were saying, there are members of the parliament who are said to be agents of China, that one of the person of Chinese origin and a journalist had put that out, but there's no word about it. Can you tell us something about that?
So yesterday we had a situation where 4 people were there. There was an independent MP, Kevin Wong. He is from Toronto. He is also, a former military officer. Then there is a Canadian journalist, Sam Cooper. He is from the Bureau News. Then there was a senior fellow from Synopsis, Charles Burton Associates, basically Charles Burton, and Michael Junio. And they have allegedly named 4 Canadian leaders. A Liberal MP, Param Bance. Now, if you remember who Param Bance is, this is the man. He's from Stevenson, Richmond East. That's his constituency. He's from BC. This man was giving a giant speech 2 days ago about Indian interference in Canada, and lo and behold, his name comes as a Chinese agent 2 days after that. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't help but not laugh. I mean, कैसे हंसू नहीं यार, मेरे को हंसी नहीं आएगी तो मैं क्या करूं? ये इंडियन इंटरफेरेंस की बात कर रहा था, ये खुद चाइनीज एजेंट निकला ये भाई. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. It is so funny. Then there was a liberal senator, Jean Paul Wu. He is his affiliation is also, he's from British Columbia, and he's in this so-called independent senators group, but everybody knows what he is, and so he is a senator. Then we had Mary, another one. This was another liberal from Markham Thornhill. Markham is a very majority Chinese area. For those who don't know Canadian geography and politics. And then there is a former conservative senator who is Victor O. Now he's a former senator, and the conservatives actually had outed him. So I just wanted to clear. And then the current, he just won the re-election in British Columbia by a whisker, like David Elby. His media advisor was also named in the press conference. So just imagine, आप लोग सोचो, मतलब जो अभी मुख्यमंत्री है एक प्रांत का, उसका मीडिया एडवाइजर चाइनीज एजेंट है. 2 दिन पहले जो इंडियन एजेंट्स की पार्लियामेंट में बात कर रहा है, वो खुद चाइनीज एजेंट है. अच्छा, ये सब तो हो गया. दिस वाज अ 46-minute press conference. 46 minutes. It's available on CPAC. Anybody can go on cpac.ca and watch the entire press conference. After that, such a bombshell has been dropped. Like, see, you're a media hawk. you would be like, अरे मजा आ गया, अब तो क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा. अरे कोई क्वेश्चन ही नहीं पूछा किसी ने एंटायर प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के बाद. आई एम लाइक, अब पूछेंगे, कोई पूछता नहीं है. एंड entire radio silence. Go check, has CBC done any coverage? Go check, has CTV done any coverage? Any mainstream Canadian media, have they done any coverage? Nobody does any coverage. यार ये मतलब, how do you take? And now ask yourself, this press conference comes now, and Justin Trudeau is obsessed about the Indian interference. Now somebody might come back and say, but Sam Cooper wrote that thread about Indian interference too. Listen, if you are a rational person and you look at the number of Indian origin MPs, right, or Asian origin MPs inside that Canadian parliament, you will realize that all of them are Khalistanis, barring a few here and there. So the probabilities of Indian agents existing in the Canadian parliament are next to nothing. Or you're saying all the Khalistanis are Indian agents. I mean, get the hell out of here, man. It is so crazy. And listen, I was watching that press conference. Listen, I am a media hawk too. I love all this. So I'm like, अरे मजा आ गया, क्या न्यूज़ मिल गई मेरे को. And I'm like, यहाँ पे Canada में nobody is talking about it. And
but that exposes these biases and these hypocrisies. It is sort of unbelievable what you just said, that person who was criticizing India and saying that India is interfering himself is accused of being a Chinese agent. The leaders, top leaders, are accused of being. If it would happen in some other country, I believe it would be the biggest story, Sanjay ji. If it happens in any other country, this is not normal.
That this misnomer of freedom of the press is in name only. Obviously, either they've indicated to everybody, let's not ask any question. I watched that press conference. I watched Kevin Long. I watched him speak. I watched the entire thing, 45, 46 minutes. It was very interesting. And they gave, blow by blow proof. But obviously, the Canadian media is obsessed with what their prime minister and what their government follows. So that's all they talk about. Nobody wants to talk about. And of course, you mentioned, Katsua was one of the people they mentioned in that. But, he's also one of the original conspiracy theorists about India interference in Canada and Indian, involvement in the Kanishka. I remember him very well. So over here is a situation where you've got, a government that wants to lean towards the radical Khalistanis, secessionists, and they're trying to close their eyes to China because, China is obviously too big. The Chinese have deep control over lots of things, especially, in the northwest of Canada. Though this, you also see the Sikhs and the Khalistanis there. But, China is obviously not making enough news there. That foreign interference inquiry was all about China. But what Trudeau tried to make it appear was, throw the India ball in the game. So that's the sum and substance of it. And I think by now, our government will, I think in the next few months, you'll see slightly stronger steps coming out.
Sanjay ji, see, should Indian students be traveling to Canada? We put up a poll and we are getting results that yes says 26%, no says 74%. And that poll is still on. You can go to our page and you can cast your vote. But this is a clear indication. I wanted to ask Kushal ji, the point here is that sometimes one wonders, is it Justin Trudeau? He is just fighting for his own survival and taking the shield of all of this, or it is not about Justin Trudeau, it is about the Canadian state. It goes across political lines. Or is it just this one person who is fixated with this, fomenting this anti-India propaganda all over?
it runs across the Canadian state. It is a uniparty. Just yesterday, I have this habit of digging up old posts
Right.
from my Khalistani or Khalistani adjacent friends. And I just shared this image for everyone. I know
Yeah.
the woman in the image. I'm not talking about the woman in the image. I'm talking
Yeah.
about all the men in the image that I shared yesterday. I just asked people innocently, can anybody tell me who 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 these people are? And if if you guys could share that image
Yeah,
and put it up on the screen. uh,
yeah,
I'm not concerned about the woman in the center. I'm concerned about all the gentlemen in the back.
yeah.
And when we look at that image, we clearly see that there is, this is an old image, I think from 2012, 13. There is Gurpatwan Singh Pannu in the back. तभी वो केसधारी नहीं होते थे.
Hmm.
Gurpatwan Singh Pannu is all the way in the back. The gentleman in the blue turban is Tim Uppal, and right now he's the deputy leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Then I think there is just Raj Hallan is also there. Then there is Param Gill. He's another conservative. So, people think this is not the uniparty. These are conservative
This is a
representatives.
very important point that you have put across, and this image, this shows that the leader of the conservatives is right in the foreground, and Pannu, Gurpatwan Singh Pannu, you can see in the backdrop, looking towards the side, wearing a glasses. No, he looks like, he doesn't look like, there's no turban, uh, there's no case, there's no dari, there's nothing. He looks like a normal person. But see, this sort of closeness with people who are anti-India, Khalistanis, and the politicians dates back to a long time. And
Mhm.
there seems to be a clear nexus here. And if there's another photo, if we have that he is with Lord Nazir, who is another person who was accused of, here it is, it's been circled. He was accused of another crime. So what is there? This is a clear, pictures don't lie, as they say.
Yeah, they don't. And the question I repeat, what is so special about Gurpatwan Singh Pannu? I mean, Dulat Saab on your own channel said that he's a CIA asset. He's a
Yeah,
CIA agent.
yeah,
And I'm no expert. I leave it, to Dulat Saab to do whatever he's doing. But my question is very simple to the Canadian authorities. And my question is to the Conservative Party of Canada. And let me share something with you. This is what the Canadian Conservatives do, right? So Canadian Conservatives have been hosting a Diwali function for the last 20, 21 years. I'm literally breaking this news on your channel right now. I was
yeah,
holding back with this
yeah. Please,
information for the
please go
last
ahead,
10
sir.
days.
Please go ahead.
They are not hosting that Diwali function this year.
Okay.
Why? Why are the Conservatives dumb? Are India Canada relations that bad that the Conservatives have decided to throw the entire Buddhist, Jain, Hindu, Sikh, मुस्लिम क्रिश्चियन दिवाली सब मनाते हैं साहब. हम सब दिवाली मनाते हैं भारत में. हम हमारा देश ऐसा नहीं है. मेरे मुस्लिम दोस्त भी मेरे साथ दिवाली मनाते थे. We are a very different country. They have thrown the entire Indian community under the bus in this so-called excuse of Indian interference, and they have cancelled the Diwali function. And if somebody says, how do you know? Well, I literally have the copy, the physical copy of the letter. If somebody asks, of the organization writing to them, they have officially written a letter now, and I will make this public on my Twitter
Right. Yes.
after this chat is done. But it is shameless. These are shameless creatures. खालिस्तानियों के साथ घूमने में इनको कोई शर्म नहीं आती है कंजर्वेटिव्स को. लिबरल, चलो लोग बड़े बोलते हैं ना, लिबरल्स तो थे ही, चलो बेशरम मान लिया. एनडीपी तो इज द लीडर इन चीफ इटसेल्फ इज अ खालिस्तानी. कंजर्वेटिव्स तो बड़ा हमको ऐसे मुआ मुआ करके बड़ा बेवकूफ बनाते थे ना ये लोग. यहाँ पे ट्रेड करना है जी,
Yeah.
साडे नाल ट्रेड कर लो तुसी. एवरीबॉडी इज लाइक मेरे नाल ट्रेड करो, मेरे नाल ट्रेड करो. नहीं करना भाई ट्रेड तुम्हारे साथ. एक तरफ तुम पूरी इंडियन कम्युनिटी का दिवाली फंक्शन कैंसिल कर देते हो. So what they are saying is every Indian in Canada is an Indian agent. That is what the Conservative Party is sending us a message, right? I take
So,
offense
so
at when you
Kushalji,
say,
what you're saying is that every year this Diwali
yes,
celebration, this Diwali function used to happen. This year, deliberately, they have just cancelled it. For the
yes,
first time, they have just cancelled it. And that is what we are breaking for our viewers, that this year, for the first time, conservatives did
yeah,
not have a Diwali function. They just cancelled it. Obviously, this cannot be taken in isolation. If you connect the dots, you get the answer.
yeah. And I will share the copy of the letter with you personally. If anybody has has any doubt, I will share the letter with you. I never speak without evidence. मेरे पास evidence नहीं होगी तो मैं नहीं बोलूंगा. इतना तो मैंने आप लोगों को देख देख के सीखा है जर्नलिस्ट को.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so ये बातें मैं नहीं करूंगा बिना इसके.
yeah,
And if you want, you can even share the letter over here. But what
yeah,
I'm trying to say is the Indians have, I call it the Harper hangover. I hope people understand what I'm saying. This is the Harper hangover. A lot of these people have a Harper hangover. And unko lagta hai कि Prime Minister Harper, क्योंकि he was very, steadfast and anti-Khalistan, and he
yeah,
was like, nahi, hum ladenge, kind of a thing. Harper used to never go to Khalistani gurdwaras or any kind of extremist gurdwara. I say Harper would not go to an extremist Hindu temple also, if there
yeah,
was one. There isn't, is a separate issue, but he would not go to Khalistani gurdwaras. But
yeah,
here I forwarded you the letter, Zafar bhai.
yeah.
Please look at it, and you can share that letter. And
Yes,
the letter is written by the organization. मेरे को तो forward किया गया letter कि sir देखो ये
yeah,
cancel हुआ है, and they have. So why should I be nice to the conservatives? I want to ask, India में ये fashion है. आपको याद होगा कल भी यशो जी ने बोला था नहीं, maybe if the government changes, things will change. And I was going like this, कुछ change नहीं होने वाला है. Yesterday आपके ही show पे, why?
yeah.
This is why. I was holding on because there were backdoor attempts to solve this. Now the letter is out in the open. तो मैंने आप लोगों को बोल दिया है, ये कर रहे हैं conservatives.
Right. They just canceled it. This is the level of, the situation has reached to this level because obviously it's a festival. Diwali is a festival that's celebrated world over, not just India, and people from all walks of life, people from all communities celebrate Diwali. And this is just pettiness. This is, if you just cancel this Diwali function, it what can one say more than this? But Sanjay ji, you want to come in?
Yes, I want to. Incidentally, President Biden has just had one of the biggest Diwali celebrations at the White House yesterday. And what Kushal is talking about is a function that they've had, for years, 30, 40, 50 years, and they've called it off. He's right. There won't be too much of change whether the conservatives come in or whether the liberals come back or the NDP, because obviously somebody is going to need somebody's support. And all of them, like I said, they've got, the Khalistanis have their people buried at number 2, number 3 levels in all the parties. So you're not going to see too much of change. So the only thing that India can do is go back to the mid 70s, late, early 80s, when and after Kanishka, where we absolutely almost broke ties. There was not even air contact, flights between the countries. It is that level. I'm not saying we need to go to that level, but it's a time for India to reflect. If today we have boycotted Pakistan for bringing in ISI operatives and in Kashmir, bringing in terrorists, they're also doing the same thing into Punjab. Let's understand that. Let's also look at Canada, which is festering terrorism in its fields, in its provinces. I mean, I look at this really strongly. I think, you don't need to call them an enemy, but what you need to do is definitely, tighten up your commercial bound, links, tighten up your air links, stop, like you said, property, things like that will be very welcome.
Yeah. So the point is that all this can be done, and it has been done in the past also, but things don't seem to be improving. We're just going through that newspaper report. Canada has lost $1 billion because in the last 2 years, because of all of this that is happening between the two countries, and the students who are going to Canada. Kushalji, don't they understand that ramifications are wide? Obviously, it is not just one thing that people are fomenting this anti-India shrill sort of a sentiment on the ground, but it has ramifications. There are people-to-people associations that have built since years. It has taken years to build those bonds between the two peoples. And when we see such small things, such petty things happening, like a Diwali function is being cancelled, and then, they're given a free run, those who are anti-Indian, isn't it all all the hard work that has been done since years, that goes down the drain. Don't they understand this?
They don't care. And I say this as someone who's married to a Canadian. My wife is born here. My wife is
Huh.
as Canadian as it gets. My
Yeah,
in-laws are in Canada for my father-in-law has been in Canada for 52 years.
yeah,
He's one of the early Indians.
yeah,
Indians का इतिहास ही यहाँ पे 100 साल का है. मेरे father-in-law 50 साल के ऊपर से यहाँ रह रहे हैं.
yeah,
And it hurts me. It hurts
yeah,
me because what actions I am demanding, like, am I
yeah.
not aware it will have my own personal life affected? I am very much aware of that fact. And I don't know what to do. Like, it has come to a point, sir, everywhere. And people may think conservatives have cancelled Diwali. I let me tell you, on 19th of October in Winnipeg, Manitoba, there was
Yeah.
another Diwali Mela. That Diwali Mela has been going on for 40 or 41 years. So in Canada, the tradition is we first play the Canadian national anthem, which should be the norm. पहले आप जिस देश से हैं उसका राष्ट्रीय गान या राष्ट्रीय गीत बनाएंगे. And after that, that is followed by, if it is a Jewish festival, Israel का बजाया जाएगा. If it's a Irani festival, Iran का बजाया जाएगा. Or if it's a Indian festival, भारत का जन गण मन बजाया जाता है.
Hmm.
This is the first time, sir, when after the Canadian national anthem, and this is the Liberals, the Indian national anthem was not played. After that, people who attended the function called me frantically and told me that they even removed a couple of Indian flags from the stage. Now I tell you,
No,
this
no.
is
We want to repeat that. So, in a function where generally there are national anthem played of the host country and of the country of which that festival or that function basically traditionally comes from is also played. In this particular case, the Indian anthem was not played, and there were also reports that some flags were taken away.
yeah, and I can't disclose the names of the people for their own safety who called me, who attended that function. I got the call immediately on 19th night itself.
Yeah,
And 19th October की रात को मुझे यहाँ के ईस्टर्न टाइम
yeah,
में फोन आता है. Extremely distressed members of the Indian community called me and they say, Kushal bhai, you are the only voice we have now in Canada. So
yeah.
please share this news with the world. And this is what's happening to the innocent Indo-Canadian community on behalf of the Uni-Party of Canada. I repeat, Liberal, NDP, Conservative, Green Party, every single person, they are all
Here,
in this
here,
together.
here, here is that letter that we can actually show on the screen now. It's with extreme
Yeah.
disappointment and in sadness that I am writing this letter to you to voice our dismay at the office of the leader of opposition cancelling the 24th Diwali celebration on Parliament Hill. For the past 23 years, Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs have looked forward to participating in the joyous occasion to share and celebrate this joyous day with all our Canadian brothers and sisters. It's become an iconic event for all of us, and it was cancelled without giving any explanation whatsoever. Now, clear, it is very clear. We got that letter put up. Kushalji sent it to us, and we just put it up on our live show. This is the letter. That the letter says that Diwali function has been cancelled. Now, what to say about it? It is just it's just very petty that you cancel a Diwali function. It's a tradition. You break a tradition for no reason.
And
If on the one hand,
Zafar bhai,
yeah,
I have forwarded you the other pamphlet of the event of 19th October because that
right,
has the name of the public representatives who had attended. So if you can share that also, I would really humbly request you. This is the Diwali event that is
yeah,
that was supposed to happen. The
yeah,
19th October one, मैं उसका pamphlet दिखा रहा हूँ. See, do I have the video of the national anthem not being played? Nobody had the
yeah,
guts to take it. We have to go by
yeah,
the faith of the members who attended that function and who called me personally. But
yeah,
again, I repeat, why I'm using the conservatives and the liberals as an example and the NDP as an example is,
yeah.
sir, this is a uni-party. Let us not live under the assumption that any one of them is nice to us. And these are tactics of intimidation. They want to intimidate the Indo-Canadian community. And my question again, as an Indo-Canadian living, the fact that I say this, I know I have a target now on me. They will be like, "अरे ये सब चीजें बता देता है जाके इंडिया वालों को." What am I
Do you
supposed
feel
to do?
Do you feel threatened when you all make those disclosure? You feel that now that you were exposing them so they could.
ये फंक्शन था सर, देखिए.
Yeah. So this is Hindu Society of Diwali function, Joyous Diwali. This was the function, and that was. Then we also showed the letter. But I was asking you, Kushalji, do you feel, not comfortable when you are exposed? Like what you said, that there's a Diwali and it was cancelled. Normally these things don't come out, but when you are just putting them out, do you feel scared?
नहीं, डरता तो मैं हूं नहीं. अब तो वो क्या था, वो गाना एक पाकिस्तानी की लाइन थी ना, अब तो आदत सी है मुझको ऐसे जीने में.
वो इंडियन लाइन नहीं है, वो इंडिया का ही गाना है, बॉलीवुड फिल्म का है.
वेरी गुड, बॉलीवुड फिल्म का गाना है. एक पाकिस्तानी सिंगर ने गाया था, आतिफ असलम ने, वो गाया था.
हाँ.
वो तो देखो सर, वो डर तो मैं किसी से भी नहीं हूँ, वो खालिस्तानी हो या कोई भी हो, डरना मैं किसी से नहीं. मैं जब सच बोल रहा हूँ तो डरना किस बात का? आई एम स्पीकिंग द ट्रूथ एंड I am as pro Canada as it gets. Sanjay bhai knows this. Like when I spoke to Sanjay bhai, I told him like I like Canada too, man. What is happening in this country? Like I don't understand what are they trying to achieve? Not playing the Indian national anthem, cancelling Diwali events. Like if they don't want Indo-Canadians to live in this country, अरे सीधा बोल दो ना, हम चले जाते हैं. We will go. हम चले जाएंगे. Right. But don't play these games. Like ये शोभा देता है. My question, and again, अभी आप फिर कोई मेरे को बोल देगा कुशल फिर पेलना शुरू हो गया भारत सरकार को, जबकि कर रहे कैनेडियंस है. अरे भाई किसके पास जाऊं? ये तो सुन रही रहे ना, तो जाऊं किसके पास? भारत सरकार के पास ही जाऊंगा ना, और किसके पास जाऊंगा? पासपोर्ट तो मेरा भारतीय है ना.
Right. Absolutely. And last word to you, Sanjay ji, before we wrap it up. Obviously, this has been a revealing show with Kushal ji sharing details with us, and also talking to you, a person who lost his family members on that bombing, and today there are people who are distributing pamphlets and trying to say that it was somehow the work of government of India agents. Last word to you before we wrap up, Sanjay ji.
Well, like I said, I'm sickened by the signature campaign and the attempt to reopen the bombing case or the inquiry. So much water has flowed under the bridge. There are so many families, not only in India, all over the world, especially in Canada, who are of victims of people who died and sacrificed their lives, so to speak, on that day. And we are rubbing salt in the wound. All these people who are talking now had opportunities before John Major's inquiry. A lot of them came. Like I've said, on Kushal's show also, there is nothing new that has come up in last 20 years. No new witness was born. So what are you trying to really portray? That's the question, we need to ask. What are you trying to achieve? And if you have some real evidence, file a case in your court and insist that this be tried again. There is double jeopardy. Otherwise, I would have loved to have tried, all those guilty people all over again. The accused. Yeah, because we had everything. So
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But clearly, the state of Canada, the leaders of Canada, the representatives of Canada need to look inwards also. That why is all of this happening and where is it leading them and their country? We'll have to leave it here. Thanks so much, Sanjay ji and Kushal sir, for joining us and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our audience for watching the Mojo story.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.